Hi, welcome to the Inside Guide page of PM Magazine, and tonight we're going to answer another question in our Ask PM Magazine segment. Tonight's question comes to us from Jean Akers, who is now living in Ambia, Indiana. Now, Jean grew up in Hoopeston, Illinois, and remembers a show here on Channel 3 called Sheriff Sid, and she's wondering what the sheriff is up to these days. Well, for all of you who are wondering about the sheriff, let's step back in time to 1954. The Sheriff Sid Show was a children's program which aired on Channel 3 from 1954 to about 1962. The host of the show was Sheriff Sid, who in real life is Sidney Fulkerson Perry. The program ran on weekday afternoons and involved Sheriff Sid with a live studio audience of about 25 children, and they'd make things out of construction paper, learn about different animals, and just have a great time. The segments with the sheriff and the kids would last between 5 and 15 minutes, and in between there were cartoons. And many times the sheriff and the children would discuss the different things that happened on the cartoons. Well, we did a little digging and we found out where Sheriff Sid went after he left Central Illinois, and we've got a treat for you tonight. We've got him on the phone right now. Sheriff Sid, how's everything in Albany, Georgia?
Fantastic. And how are you up there in Champaign-Urbana, Suzanne?
Oh, we're doing great. Now, I think our viewers would like to know what you've been doing since you left here.
Oh, what haven't I? Oh boy, I left Champaign-Urbana and came to Florida. And I was in that market for 16 years. Kind of in the middle, I left the market to go to Danville to build WIAI, the FM stereo station over there. And put that on the air and went back to Florida. And worked there for a considerable length of time. And had a job offer then to go to Kentucky. And I was at Lexington, Kentucky for about 2.5 years. And then a former boss of mine gave me quite a challenge. And he said, how would you be interested in putting on an independent station? He said that he would be the executive vice president and general manager, and I could be the number 2 man as program manager, promotion manager, and do some other things. In an operation of this size, a small station, independent in the market, why? Oh, wait a minute, I'm out of costume. Hold on a minute. Something's wrong. Oh, there, that's better. Now I've got my hat on. Now you can see what I belong in.
You look great.
Got my Stetson on.
What would you like to say to everyone who remembers you as Sheriff Sid here in Central Illinois?
I would like to say to them, thanks for, first of all, continuing their faith and trust in that great station of Augie Myers there at Midwest Television, and keeping up their good spirit. Defining Illini, okay, they're doing sensational. I hope they get that bull bid, and thanks for remembering me to call you folks and say whatever happened to old Sheriff Sid.
Well, Sheriff, I think everybody in Central Illinois will be glad to find out what you've been up to, and you have any last messages to them?
Just say what we used to say always. Adios, amigos.
We're back now with former PM Magazine host Suzanne Kay, the lead in that package we just saw with Sheriff Sid. It's so cool to see the number of people that you probably got to, meet and get to know, getting to tell their stories, but also you probably got to work with quite an incredible team to make this all happen. Can you tell us about the people that you worked alongside?
Sure. My first co-host, Dennis Vaughn, he and I were the originals, and he was with us for about 6 months. And then we had a period of time where we were looking for someone to join the team. And it took about 6 months, but we found Steve Trainer. And along with Steve, I worked with Connie Wise, who's a local, who I think she lives in Florida now. And then we also work with Mark Rosen, who is the executive producer, Todd Williamson, who worked with us. He was also a photographer, videographer, and Andy Greenwell. That was our core team at the beginning. And it was really fun because we really bonded because we knew what we were doing was special in the area. And that the fact that it was PM Magazine was part of a Group W package of stations who were running the show, airing the show. And so we knew that once we started airing and we were getting feedback from the community, we knew we had a hit. In fact, we were one of the top 10 PM magazines in the country as far as the numbers go, the audience goes. And that was something we're very proud of.
Absolutely. That's incredible. And a true testament to the people that you work among is the products that you produce, because it takes a team effort, as you mentioned. Now, you mentioned all the things that you got to do throughout Central Illinois, getting to tell so many different stories. It also sounds like you got some pretty cool experiences traveling, taking some trips to tell some stories.
We did. We went to Walt Disney World in Orlando, had a chance to meet David Block, who was an animator for Disney. Also Ducky Nash, and if anybody knows who Donald Duck is, Ducky was the voice of Donald Duck, and that was very fun. We went to Canada, we went to Banff and Lake Louise. I'm from Miami originally, never been snow skiing, and my first time snow skiing was in the Canadian Rockies, and that was fun
Wow.
until I looked down one day and said, I can't make it down. And one of the ski instructors actually carried me down the slope on his back,
Oh my
which was
gosh.
not a highlight of my life, but it was fun. We went to Jamaica. We did a cruise on Norwegian Cruise Lines. And then we went into Jamaica, Ocho Rios, really traveled the area, which was a lot of fun. We went to Tahoe. We just really were very fortunate that we had a chance to explore not just Central Illinois, but to bring stories back to Central Illinois of places and people that we met along the way outside of the area.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Sign me up for any of that. I'm ready for our trip to Canada, or
Okay.
Jamaica, or Disney. Any of those sound absolutely wonderful. Now, I'm curious to get your perspective of maybe how you would say the industry has changed from then and now. What changes are you noticing?
Well, PM Magazine was the first ever pre-prime show, meaning it aired between the local news in some markets and then the national news, or after the national news before prime time. So that was really the first show to ever do that. And from PM Magazine, then came all of the entertainment shows. And that's where Entertainment Tonight came from. I think that was also a Group W show. um, Inside, or is it Inside? I don't remember some of the shows.
Yes, yeah.
Um, yeah, it became much more entertainment based, Hollywood based, New York based, rather than local, because they were based outside of the Midwest for the most part. So that changed a lot, and that was a little bit sad, because I think what PM Magazine did, and we were in over 118, I think it was 118 markets.
Amazing.
Yeah, and because of that, you were able to bring the local markets into a wider range of stories. Because let me go back to a little bit about the way PM worked, is that all the local stations, all the local shows and hosts, they would do stories. We would do a story, and then we would submit them to the national office, which was based in Northern California. And then they would decide which of those stories would go on the national reel. So several of our stories actually went national, and then the PM magazines around the country could decide, okay, this is a great story. For instance, I did a story, we were in St. Louis, about the Clydesdales, and the other stations could decide, well, do we want to run that story, or do we want to air one of our own? But it was a real privilege and an honor to know that the work we were doing in Champaign, in the Midwest and Central Illinois, was seen as equal, as good as, or better than some of the shows and stories coming out of some of the bigger markets. So that was a lot of fun for us to see one of our stories going national.
Oh, I bet. I bet the excitement was through the roof. Now, I'm curious, after PM Magazine, where did your story go from there? What are you up to now?
Oh, lots of things. I met my first husband, did a show about, did a story about the School of the Performing Arts in Champaign. I left Champaign because he was working with Coach Lou Henson and the basketball team.
Yeah.
And one of the other coaches, Tony Yates, got a job as a head coach at the University of Cincinnati. So we moved to Cincinnati, got married. I had two children, two boys who are now men. And from there, we moved around because it's basketball and you have to. We moved to Nashville. Things changed. I was single again, and met my second husband. We got married in November of 2012. And in December, he said, I've got a job in Europe. Do you want to go? So that's what we did. We moved to the Netherlands, lived in
Wow.
Europe for 7 years, got back to the US, got back to Nashville in December of 2012. 19, just before the apocalypse started. That's what I call it, the zombie apocalypse.
Honestly.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But in between PM Magazine and then getting to Nashville, I did a lot of shows for HGTV, producing and writing, the Travel Channel, PBS. I did a documentary for PBS, did a show for CMT, did a show for CBS, producing, field producer. So I was very fortunate to be able to stay in the business. Only did news one more time and really wasn't happy with the things that we had to deal with in the news business. And so I got married, as I said, in 2012. We went to Europe and I've come back. I'm retired. And when I was in Europe, I discovered mosaics. And so that's what I'm doing now. I make mosaics. I have a studio. My husband found this fabulous house. Excuse me. And there's a building on the property that was already there. And we've converted it into my mosaic studio. So,
Awesome.
yeah. And my kids, my boys are, one is married, living outside of Boston with his wife. And my other son is about to get married in October. They live in Southern California. Love my girls. I finally have girls. And so that's great. And, just enjoying my stepchildren, my 3 dogs, and life is good. And I look back on PM Magazine as really a launching pad for me because it really taught me how to produce, how to write even better than I didn't know I was capable of doing. And just making the connections and meeting so many great people in Central Illinois.
And Central Illinois is truly full of so many great people. I've gotten to experience that as well. And you're clearly a well-acclaimed individual host, and we're proud to have your roots here and your launching pad here at WCIA. You have an amazing story, an inspiring story, and we'll connect people with it on our website, CILiving.tv. Suzanne, thank you so much for your time today.
Of course, great to talk.